Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. I'm your host, Bob Powell, and you'll notice that there's no fancy music in this episode. So my apologies go to my dear friend James, also known as Magatron, the 80s bass legend. For some reason, GoogleTube has decided that despite the fact that I've provided James' release twice now, they're not going to monetize my videos as long as that music is on there, so no music. That's okay though. It's the information that's important, right? And with that in mind, let's see if they have a problem with me just talking to my next guest. And this next guest is a very special one indeed. His name is Reza Kahlili, and he was a CIA spy embedded in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And what he has to say in this half-hour interview will shock you. In part one, Reza talks about the secret negotiations that the Obama administration has been holding with Iran in order to get them to stop enriching uranium. But it may be too late, because Reza also says that the Iranians have been pursuing a parallel program in which they did manage to buy nuclear weapons on the black market. So they already have them. Now, linked at the end of part one, in part two, Reza tells us about, he's an Iranian national, by the way. So Reza tells us about how religion drives the foreign policy of Iran. And it doesn't matter how powerful the United States or Israel are, or how many nuclear weapons that we have. Conventional wisdom would say Iran won't possibly attack the United States, would annihilate them. Well, the Iranians don't think like that. They're a theocracy, and they're driven by their religion. And they feel that when hostilities start, the 12th Imam Mahdi, will arise from his well and will supernaturally sweep the enemies of Islam before him. So they don't care about Israeli nuclear weapons. They don't care about U.S. nuclear weapons. And even in a secular world, they've got a plan that would render that advantage neutral. And Reza talks about that too. It's called an electromagnetic pulse. It's something that the Iranians can do right now. They've been practicing it, and they're ready. When hostilities begin with Israel, that's when you need to get your bug-out bag. This man has risked his life when he served in the CIA's Directorate of Operations as a spy in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. He's a counterterrorism expert who currently serves on the Congressional Task Force on National and Homeland Security. He's the author of an award-winning book called A Time to Betray, and he regularly appears on national and international media as an expert on Iran and counterterrorism in the Middle East. It's my honor to welcome a truly brave man to The Truth is Viral. This is Reza Kahlili. How are you doing today, sir?
Well, thanks so much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be on your program.
Hey, well, I really am honored, because just this past weekend, some information that you brought out of Iran has turned into what a lot of people are calling President Obama's October surprise. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, actually this goes back to February of this year, when I initially revealed that there were secret negotiations going on between the Islamic regime and the President Obama's administration, where there was a preliminary agreement where U.S. would recognize Iran's right to peaceful enrichment, nuclear energy, and it would announce that there is no military dimension to the nuclear program. These were the demands by the Iranians. And so the negotiations were discussed on the facts that Israel wants to attack, that President Obama is standing in front of it. And if you look back, you'll see after the February, and when I reviewed that initial information, we had General Dempsey coming out and saying that Iran is a rational regime, is not after the nuclear bomb. We have 16 U.S. intelligence agencies coming out with an assessment, just as Mr. Netanyahu then was traveling to U.S. to talk to President Obama about the Iranian nuclear program, that Iran was not after the nuclear bomb. So they met their conditions. The U.S. counterparts met their conditions, and then Iranian supreme leader met his, which was to come out and say that the nuclear bomb is against Islam, and it's a great thing, and we have no intention on having it. So those negotiations continued on with, as I revealed, on October 4th, and then with an update on October 18th in Washington with Iranian surrogates and agents coming here for talk, and then the October 4th revelation on the Doha Qatar meeting around October 1st, where 3 U.S. representatives of President Obama's administration met with the Iranian counterparts, including Dr. Ali Akbar Velayati, the ex-foreign minister, and the close associate on international affairs to the Supreme Leader. By the way, he's wanted by the courts in Argentina for the Buenos Aires bombing of Jewish Community Center in 1994. So again, there it was emphasized that an Obama presidency would be obviously much better for the Iranians because Romney would move closer to Israel. And again, it was President Obama that has stood in front of Israel not to attack Iran. And then they hashed out and urged for an announcement, some kind of announcement before the U.S. elections on a partial enrichment halt and a successful negotiation which would boost the re-election chances of President Obama. Khamenei has made the demand that he wants written guarantees of all the elements of the agreement before he allows the Iranians to announce such. But the Iranian foreign minister, the spokesman for the foreign ministry, right after I reviewed and after the Doha meeting, which is still the White House has not verified, they announced that Iran is open for talks and even a partial enrichment. So it's all a plan, a grand plan for an announcement before the election, and I think my revelation kind of changed their game plan.
Well, let me ask you a question. Even if there is some type of deal in place, can we trust the Iranians to keep their part of the bargain, or are they just doing this to stall for time while they continue to pursue nuclear weapons?
Well, that's a great question. You see, the regime has done this masterfully for over 3 decades. They've given the runaround to the West, keeping in talks, providing hope while continuing full force with the nuclear program. And if you see from the time President Obama took office, at that time Iran had barely enough enriched uranium for 1 nuclear bomb. Today they have for 6. At that time they were only limited to 3.5% enrichment, which is for peaceful uses. Today they're enriching at 2 sites to 20%, which was a major breakthrough in 2010 when they announced it. Going to 20% is only 4 to 6 weeks away from weaponization. So they have progressed significantly with both the nuclear program and the missile program. And so no, they're not going to bind themselves to any agreement. And if you look at the details of agreement I've put out there, it's just basically a sham of having some sanctions removed, a partial halt while they continue on with the nuclear program.
Okay. Earlier this month, you wrote that Iranian scientists are nearing completion of a nuclear warhead, having already successfully tested an implosion system and neutron detonator at a secret site while enriching uranium to weapons grade, which is what you were just talking about. Now, you've also written in the past that the Iranians have former Soviet bloc weapons in their possession already from Kazakhstan. Isn't that right?
Well, yes, I revealed then that the Iranians have 2 nuclear warheads, which they purchased from the former Soviet republics after the fall of the Soviet Union. And I provided several sources, one of them with inside knowledge within the State Department, another one within the Pentagon, that the U.S. is aware of that, and actually they believe these are workable bombs. But talking to my source in the Guard's intelligence, he said that there are doubts that they have the code, and the KGB might have put one over them. And nonetheless, the Iranians on themselves, the regime itself, is very close in achieving and arming the warhead with nuclear weaponry, arming their missiles with that. And basically the site that I reviewed, it's another nuclear secret site, and everybody should look into that. The IAEA and the intelligence agencies, they should immediately monitor this site, because what I heard from my source, and I put up all the scientists' names, and obviously the father of the Iranian nuclear program, Mohsen Fakhri's are working out of that site. They have successfully tested the neutron detonator, and this was verified by the IAEA with their suspicion of what was taking place in Parchin, which the government has refused to allow them to inspect while they're cleaning the area. So, you see, U.S. completed its Manhattan Project decades ago, in the 50s, 40s, in 3 years. The Iranians have been working with the current science and technology for over 2 decades. So it is logical to think that they have mastered the technology and they're only working on arming their ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads.
Okay, now let's go to motivation. You've translated an official Iranian state-sponsored video called "The Coming Is Upon Us," which talks about the Iranian government's Shia Twelver belief that the Mahdi will rise to unite Islam, supernaturally defeat its enemies, and establish a worldwide Islamic caliphate. Now, Iran is a theocracy. It's governed by Sharia law and the Quran and the various hadiths and whatever heavily influence their foreign policy. So can you tell us exactly what the Iranian government is are they actively trying to make this Islamic prophecy of the Mahdi come true?
Well, that's a very good point. And I've explained about this. I've put out several articles, and in many interviews I have emphasized that the reason that we have failed to negotiate with the regime is that we don't understand their ideology. And so basically, it is the ideology that we got to understand. They truly believe in the end of times. They truly believe in the coming of the last Shiite Messiah, Imam Mahdi, and they believe all these signs of whatever is taking place in the Middle East, which they call the Islamic awakening, in Europe and U.S., the fall of the economy. They see these signs as per centuries-old hadith. That the time is close, and the trigger is destroying Israel. So when they say that Israel needs to be destroyed, it's not rhetoric. It is within their belief that once that's done, then the coming will be upon us. And I advise everyone to watch that secret documentary, which I reviewed, The Coming Is Upon Us. This was made by the Revolutionary Guards and the Basij in Iran with the approval of the President's office and the Supreme Leader's office. They were going to distribute this in the Middle East, and I reviewed it just as they finished production and showed it to the hierarchy in Iran, and then a whole thing unraveled. This is their theology, this is their ideology, and this is what they think the world will come to. Endless wars, atomic wars, collapse of global economy, havoc, chaos, lawlessness, millions dead, then Imam Mahdi will come.
So they don't have any fear of the United States or Israel retaliating, do they? But what would actually prompt them to actually attack us or to attack Israel with whatever weapons they might have at their disposal, chemical weapons or, heaven forbid, an electromagnetic pulse bomb? What would prompt that attack?
Basically, they have prepared for war. We have to understand that. They have prepared for war on several stages. One is within the country, they've formed thousands of battalions to be ready when people rise up against the regime, to gun them down, to kill all the activists and political prisoners and so forth. Another is for terrorist cells around the world to commit terrorist acts in U.S., in Europe, and all over the world. And then a direct attack on Israel. Now, let me state here, necessarily there does not need to be an attack on Iran for the regime to act. The regime could preemptively act. and that depends on the timing. If they reach that point of having nuclear bombs, and if they feel within their ideology that the time is right. These people rely on centuries-old hadiths, so the timing is within that vision, and this is what is so dangerous about that.
Okay, so now we move from motivation to methods. How would they attack? The guards that you say are in the United States and in Europe, all around the world, waiting for that signal to attack. Exactly what would they do? Would this be in combination with an EMP attack?
Well, that's a real possibility. I revealed before any news media came out with it that the Revolutionary Guard have armed the vessels with ballistic missiles, and that they are ready. These ballistic missiles could be launched from anywhere, and they're going to expand their mission into Atlantic Ocean. So you could see a commercial ship, not necessarily a naval ship, a commercial ship coming up the Atlantic Ocean, close to Venezuela, Cuba, right behind the Gulf of Mexico, or even further down. And from a container in less than 60 seconds, launch a missile with a nuclear bomb on top of it to create an electromagnetic pulse attack. I have also verified that they've got neutron bombs. Neutron bombs are super EMP bombs. So they could plan an attack as such, which, if successful, only one or two could create such havoc in U.S. and send us back to the 18th century. All the power grids would fry, everything with electronics would fry, cars would stop operating, communication would go down. And actually a report by the Congress, a commission for the Congress, has stated that if such attack were to incur, 2/3 of American population would cease to exist just after 1 year of such attack.
Yeah, I read that. It was from Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. He was a member of the Congressional EMP Commission, and some of the percentages are up to 90%. And these people are going to be dying from starvation, from disease, from lack of medical care. You won't even be able to pump water unless you've got an old crank pump. So you were speaking about Venezuela a minute ago. Now, don't the Iranians have a secret missile base in Venezuela?
They do. Actually, what they did, again, I put out something a long time ago that there was a contract between the Islamic regime in Iran and the Venezuelan government, Hugo Chavez, where they would build a missile site. The Revolutionary Guard have got many plants in Venezuela. It provides as one of the main hubs of their activity in Latin America, expanding their terror cells, taking Hezbollah and others over there. So you see, the threat is on multi-stages. It's like a cancerous cell spreading not only throughout the region, throughout the world, and we have continuously failed to understand that.
Okay, Reza, over the past year, I've been showcasing how the Muslim Brotherhood and al-Qaeda, which are both Sunni organizations, have had a major role in this so-called Arab Spring. But you've recently published another article that says that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has also played a role. Now, from what I understand, the Sunni and Shia Muslim sects hate each other so much, rarely a day goes by when they're not blowing up each other's mosques. So how is it that they come to be working together in Northern Africa, in the Middle East? Is this a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Oh, absolutely. And you got to understand, it was the Islamic regime, the Shiite Islamic regime in Iran, who collaborated with Hamas and armed and financed Hamas. It was them, it is them still arming and training Taliban, which at one point they were enemies, helping al-Qaeda. There are proof and documents that al-Qaeda operatives are active in Iran, are financed, and it provides a safe passage for them. And they've been in collaboration with the Muslim Brotherhood for decades. They worked together to assassinate President Anwar Sadat and then Mubarak. And so there is a very close collaboration. And actually in the 90s, early 90s, Ahmad Vahidi, the current defense minister of Iran, who is wanted by the Interpol for the Jewish Community Center bombing in Buenos Aires, he urged Ahmad Moghnieh, he assigned Ahmad Moghnieh, the master terrorist, Hezbollah terrorist, to gather around all these factions and to work together for the demise of the West and America. So al-Qaeda, Islamic Jihad, the Palestinian Front, Hezbollah, and all of them. And these are Shiites and Sunnis. And so they share a common goal for the destruction of Israel and U.S.
If you could take just 1 minute and tell my viewers the most important thing that they will ever hear in their lives, what will it be?
Well, I want to really get this across, that not understanding the threat of a nuclear-armed Islamic regime in Iran, it's going to bring about the demise for humanity. And let me tell you how. Just a single detonation of a nuclear atomic bomb in the Persian Gulf, even if we were to destroy them, that God forbid that never happens, because the majority of Iranians are the most westernized people in the region. They love America, they love Israel, and they've been aspiring for freedom and democracy. But if that were to happen, all the oil flow from that region would halt immediately. And so the global economy would collapse immediately, and we would see the greatest depression humanity has ever seen. So this is the ideology of those radicals who have taken Iranians and the world hostage. They know that would cause such a devastating effect on the world, and they think that would facilitate the coming of the last Islamic Messiah and the conquest of Islam all over the world. So we are going to face horrendous time if we don't take concrete actions and correct actions to stop them from getting the bomb.
So basically, what it boils down to, since a lot of my viewers are atheists, some are Muslim, some are Jewish, some are Christian. I've got viewers of all faiths and some that practice no faith at all. But what I would like to impress on them right now as I'm looking into this camera is that it doesn't make any difference what your personal religious belief is. It doesn't make any difference if you don't have a religious belief. The only thing that matters is the Iranians do. And they are bound and determined to see it through. And you need to stay right here on The Truth is Viral, where we have great guests like Reza Kahlili, former CIA operative, author of A Time to Betray. You can visit his website at atimetobetray.com and check him out on WND, WorldNet Daily. He's a featured author there. Reza, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It really meant a lot to me, brother. Thank you.
Thanks so much. God bless.
Well, that certainly was a coup for The Truth is Viral, if ever there was one. Turns out that Reza Kahlili's information out of Iran, that there's been a secret deal struck, is accurate. Here it is right here in the New York Times. And I'm the first program to have him on as a guest. I'm extremely pleased with that. The Lord is really looking out for me. Now, in the next few weeks, I'm going to have Dr. Chuck Missler, trying to get Dr. Peter Vincent Pry on from the Electromagnetic Pulse Commission. If anybody knows what kind of a nightmare we're faced with, it's that man. So stay tuned. Make sure that you support this channel. Spread these videos everywhere you go. Put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, Reddit, dig it, tumble it, whatever crazy means of sharing information that you might have. And if you have the ability, please go to bobpowell.blogspot.com and throw me a donation, because I am in desperate need of a new computer. This one is on its last legs, and if it goes, I will have no way of continuing this show. So I need your help in every way possible. We're all in this together, my friends. It's a big crap sandwich, and we're all going to have to take a bite. But hopefully with your help, maybe we can save a few lives. So until next time, my name is Bob Powell, and as always, God bless. Semper Fi. Hoorah.